Me and my grandmother, this is around in the 80s. We used to walk. We used to walk in the really, really extremely traditional parts of Adana. It's in the south, closer to east, so he has the culture of the eastern Turkey a little bit, but a little bit culture of the south, southern. But because it doesn't have sea, it's not seaside. It's not as comfortable. Um, Comfortable in like a clothing or the mental states, because there's something about the people of sea. They are more forgiving, they're more flexible. I suppose it could be because when it's hot in the sea, people are used to seeing each other in less clothing, like swimming suits, or people are more known to someone's disappearing in the sea. So you know someone today is going out to fish with a boat and disappears and doesn't come back. So you kind of perhaps generate this attitude towards life that let's all be relaxed and enjoy, and we can drink some raka and have some food and make a really gratefulness and gratitude. So my grandmother's friends were, I don't even know how to call them. They 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 used to look like really witchy people. So uh I think one of her sisters had this huge mole here. That's the biggest mole I can ever imagine. And she had this gigantic laughter and dark black hair with red lips all the time and really big boobs. And she was like, she wasn't even a big mama. Take a note of this, okay? Because I'm saying some stuff that if you follow me, if you follow more of videos, you're going to notice. Aha. I'm just not revealing everything in one go. She was sort of, she didn't feel big, but then every time we jumped over her, I got lost in her big, big, huge, welcoming and motherly and accepting and loving titties and arms. And all those women, they wore big dresses, and perhaps most of them were made by my grandmother. And in trousers where they had secret pockets. They put their ID cards and very important documents, perhaps cards for their bank accounts. Those women just carried all the important things on them, and they didn't trust men. And I remember the conversations in mostly around how men were fucked up and they couldn't manage financially. It's like these are the women, they made the family run by working themselves. And but they were very superstitious. So for instance, if someone died, it was still superstitious and traditionalist. And I think there's another word for it, but um, it will come back to me later on. So they all believe that I was cursed, like from a very early age, or they because my dad died. So, and everyone, at any moment that anybody saw me, they start crying and they start saying things like how awful my faith is and how the God has left us alone in this situations. Like, you see in these films, in the movies, that village women get together and they cry and they they mourn, cry, yell, and mourn. That's just like a very regular part of my childhood to have all those women doing that to me and to my brother. I remember hundreds, almost it feels like hundreds of hands just coming over me and stroking my head. I was like, and saying it. Uh, I hope that my future fate won't be as as good as my the beginning of my fate or something else. Like, won't be as bad as the beginning of my fate. And they were saying like a God didn't protect his little ones who are missing in life. Uh, but these are quite interesting things. Like, is this old woman with like big hex scarves and big red lips and moles and all the secret pockets in their huge dresses, um, who laughed a lot and danced a lot. This is another subject. They just danced a lot and they talked a lot. They gossiped a lot. And they helped each other a lot as well. So they all had their own children, but they also gave money to children who couldn't educate themselves, so gave money to the poor people, poorer than themselves. So it was a very big, generous community. So every one of them had a few children they were educating, giving money. So, and it's not like a super wealthy family, the wealthy people. They're like normal people. Like, yeah. So I remember this like there's a big tradition. It's about getting the jinns out of you. It's a protection, but also releasing the just dragging out. It's almost like a vacuuming out, sucking out all the jinns and negative energy, negative eyes. So because I was a very beautiful girl, and they thought like, oh, this is all because I'm beautiful. My life is gonna be horrible. I'm gonna be used. I'm gonna be abused. That's like, and my faith is gonna be horrible because I was beautiful. So that was their ideas, and they kept repeating this. It's like, and I'm gonna say something about it. This repetition, why it's so important. So they thought they need to get these jinns out, and this is kind of a traditional, so funny to say, but traditional, religious related, because the ritual that I've been through tens and tens of times, in my early childhood, then in my later teen years. I think is about, oh my god. So you you gather you gather there's like, they collect some or buy some lead and melt it in a big pan. You melt lead, like, you get these big pieces of lead that you hang it on the messinas, like a fishing ropes, and so it just like it creates this heaviness that it just like, the fishing rod just goes down. So you gather them and you melt it, and as the person, so they were just, think it as like as a treatment. So I was just like sitting on the floor or on a small stool, and a few women gathers, we call it a sharp. It's like a head scarf, but really thin. It's almost like how you see things through, like how you make cheese, that kind of material, really, really thin, because it's a summer place, but you still need to tie your hair, because I mean, it's the best thing in the summertime, just tying your head up, because it doesn't get over you. And so I sit underneath of it, and then a few women just like gather this a sharp over me, and they whisper. So I'm under there. It's a bit dark, and it's a bit, what I see is there's a hands and a face of woman over me, and they move around. They all have really beautiful, colorful clothes. It's not like an outcome, but it's just like a colorful floral things, and they smile and laugh and make jokes, and there's a movement above me, and they hold this, and one person holds the big bowl of cold water, and everyone starts chanting Allah. There's like some weird whistles. So I'm kind of like calling the jinn and the negative energies out, and perhaps telling them, uh, with the power of music, that we're here to fuck you now. We gathered as women. Get out of there. Come on. I guess I must be like a cursed or something. So it's so you just so believe in it when you are young. And then the person comes with the lead melted in the pan, and from above really high she pours it, and the melted lead drops in to the cold water. It's like it's almost like seeing this like earth melting itself out of the earth, like from the third layer to the top layer, top crust. And it just and the hot lead that touches water becomes solid, solidifies in that instance, and the sound it makes, uh, and it's incredible. You just have this like small explosions creating craters of um, volcanic structures in it, and it was a and in this instance, all the women are praying in Arabic. We don't speak in Arabic. So you need to understand this. Like as a small child, all these things are happening, and you're surrounded with all women. You just aspire, I suppose. This is life. This is where I just like a reborn, or this is where I come in the world, and this is what the world is. So this is what a woman is, and this is what you do, because this is what they do, because they love me and I'm cursed and I need to be protecting. I have Jinn in me, and I have all these negative energies in me. It needs to be taken out of me. Ah, and and you just see all movement above you. People are moving their hands. They're doing this kind of sweeping off the air, so the jinns are off. And they pray in Arabic. We don't speak in Arabic, and then suddenly all these strange words, sentences appear out of the woman, and you never heard anything like that, and suddenly it feels like, or you felt like everyone's speaking in tongues, and if you could do it, you crack the code of life. If you can speak in tongues in that kind of environment and get all the genes and negative energy out of someone, it's sort of like an exorcism. um but it's not, and this is a kind of an exorcism that it's so commonly available in that kind of traditions, and the backlog and the back rooms of Turkish culture. And thanks to my grandmother, I lived it through as if I was living 100 years ago or 200 years ago. It's just like it was nothing less than what things were 150 years ago. Believe me, all the streets, all the architecture, all the people. It's like on the outside, but it's another time. So I'm just talking about this lead and how they got the jinn and the negative thoughts out at me and left me in a crippled mental state, thinking that I'm just this, I must be this like a twisted being with all the stuff in me that controls me or controls my life. So especially, yeah. And now what happens is after that big ceremony, they take one of them, which is seen as the clairvoyant, or someone who can see better, who can read better. And I tell you what, it's so creative. And I did the same methods when I was painting abstract paintings. And if you don't know my abstract paintings, they're fucking weird and awesome. And I think they're pure genius because they're not intended to be, and they're just intended because they're not intended for anyone. They were just like intended to me. They were devoted to this life, and they were story anyway. And the thing is, that was a long time ago when I was painting. But still, let's keep them focused. So someone takes out that lead, and now that lead is a piece of, it's a big piece of lead, a big lead piece, and it has so many holes and so many weird shapes on it that someone takes it and starts reading it as if you're reading the tree leaves, tea leaves, or coffee. I mean, you know what I mean? You do. You just like you start seeing shapes, and you let your thoughts go off, and you don't think anything else, and you you become the channel for your intuitive words, and for your intuitive thoughts, and for the that and what, because the shapes you see creates or enables or triggers those thoughts, uh, and those imaginations, which then, by speaking them, you either get rid of them or you either create as something concrete. So for instance, one uh, someone was saying, I remember, oh, I was, she was saying, she, oh, she's filled with jinns and they're all taking her life, and they're they have bad plans for her future and all this stuff. And then she says, but we captured it. And then she carries on, now you listen to me. You have no power over her. It's like those kind of stuff. So, and then the other, and some they can, she can add things like, oh, I see now her future is bright and stuff. Well, it depends on who is doing it. And this is the original form of affirmations in Islamic culture. If you this is the original form of abstract art, affirmations, performance art. This is all where it comes from. These people are incredibly creative people. They love rituals. It makes them feel good. They love chatting with each other. They love socializing. They also so creative, like seeing shapes and talking them through, making things realize. So they have the power of the sorcerer. Yeah. So you can either so you can either hold on to that, or they just like bury it outside in the garden somewhere, outside somewhere, and pour a little bit of water over it. Um, but also as the secondary things, what they do is you just they grab a pinch a pinch of rice, and they, all this woman again, like they pray over the rice in first in Arabic. And I don't really know, they actually know the meanings of the Arabic words, but I understand. So it's the form of the voices, the sounds forming in the air, has the power. So the creation of the vibrations, and without like it being airy fairy kind of thing, like the sound is a vibration. So certain sounds has certain vibrations. Like, so they're using those prayers in Arabic for that reason, I suppose. But no one really understood it though. But it sounded good anyway in that environment. The way they prayed was different than the way that Arabs prayed. It's just different. Um. Anyway, so sometimes just like someone says something Turkish on it. Someone has a pinch of rice and just like a praise over the rice, and that blows over it, and gives all the good intentions and all the good your fortune and future on that rice. So what you do it is you and that person just holds her hand and you jumped over that rice like 10 times whilst someone is holding another piece of stuff and everyone's just circled around you. They're all praying and chanting. You just jump over the rice, and at the end, they made you swallow that. It's not like a cooked rice. It's a handful of raw rice. You swallow that rice. So the meaning of it is now you swallowed your good fortune and the good deeds. Mm. Oh wow. This is like you kind of what is fascinating in here is so um this is kind of in that old own senses playing God and manipulating something. But I don't know. I don't exactly know what I think about all these because just I know how privileged I am that I lived through this time with these people who who not just verbally, orally, who not just on the paper as a tradition, but as a living organism who believed in those traditions and who lived those traditions as if it's the normal thing that you need to do in life. It's like you when you get up, you brush your teeth, and it was that normal. And as a young person that I was growing up living that thing just like it was that normal, it was that normal for me to think that there is all like invisible beings around us. They manipulates us and we are affected by their negative thoughts, and we are affected by the negative thoughts of all those people. But it also brings in this thing of like a you will be punished if you do something bad, and especially as a young girl, young woman, you will be punished anyway because you were beautiful, and that's all your fault. So I know I started to talk about like the male domination in the society on the mental and the physical platform as if it's echo of it and a reflection of it, and I came to a very different place. But there you go. I think it's awesome. Um, Again, I don't really know how exactly I feel about it. Uh, but it's like a living in a David Lynch film and just saying the word. I tell you what, that's not actually like a made up thing because I lived it, and these things are true. Anyway, I'm Aisha Balkus, and subscribe.